So for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna get a model that's already done, and then we're gonna customize it and add animations to it. So this one is from cgtricks.com, and if you search Tesla here, you are gonna find this model here. You can just literally Google this and this is gonna pop up. So go down here to downloads, click on it and download it. So here they ask for a price. I mean, you can put a price if you want, and then your email, and that should be it. You can click on this little button here and then view content, and this is going to give you all the files. Now the one we want here is called Tesla Final Cycles. So click on download on that. Oh, also you need to have Blender installed. So go over to Blender, blender.org, download it here, and we are ready to rock and roll. So that's done. Now we can open up and see what's going on. It might take a while because it is quite a, I wouldn't say a huge project, but it might take a while to load up. So here we go. This is our car. Now, if you don't know anything, what's this? What's this? What's this? Don't worry. I'm going to walk you through step by step. Okay, how do you move around in this damn program? If you hold the middle mouse down, you can rotate like that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so hold the middle mouse down, you can rotate. If you hold shift and the middle mouse, you can pan around like that. Okay, that is perfect. All right, so you can move around. If I want to go here, boop, 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 and then you can scroll in and scroll out for the zooming. All right, so that's your basic navigation. So just play around with that a little bit, get comfortable. Very cool. If you want to select an object and maybe move it around, the way you do that is you click on it. Now you cannot drag on it. See, that just selects stuff. So I click on this and doesn't work. So the way you do it is using the move tool. Now optionally, you can have this bar here popped open, and then you can go here to move. And then as you can see, these arrows pop up. So the up arrow, left and right. So it's on X, Y, Z axis basically. Why is my voice going away? Jesus. Yeah, so that's one way of doing it. I don't like doing it like that, so I always keep it on the select box. And then whenever I want to move something, I just click on it and then click on G. So that's the shortcut. Click G and then I can move it around. Now if I want to lock it to an axis, I can press X, for example, and then it only moves on the X. Or I can do G, Y, boom. Or if you want, you can just hit G, and then if you hold down the middle mouse, you can lock it to a certain angle while holding it down just like that. So whichever you prefer. I just like to do, and if you right click, by the way, so if I right click, it jumps back, so it won't actually affect any changes. Okay, so I like to do just G and X, for example, and boom, I moved it there. All right, so that's one thing. And then you also have rotate, so you can do R for that, and then same thing, so you can lock it to Y, R, X, for example, to lock it to that axis, RZ to lock it to that. So what we're gonna do for now is just click on this Tesla thing here and just hit delete. All right, we want to get rid of that. Okay, so we are only left with the car. Now what I want to do is basically add a plane, just ground to it. Okay, just a simple one. So the way we can do that is hit Shift A. All right, Shift A, or you can go up here to add mesh, and then we're gonna do a plane. All right, so there it is. And then we can press S, and that's gonna let us scale it up or down like that. So let's just go mad all the way up there. Perfect. So just something really big. Okay, so now what I want to do is kind of compose this and make it look pretty. So I want to pick an angle that I really like and then render that out. So I want to move the camera to a certain location that I think it looks good. You can click on this camera here, and the way you can access the camera is on your keyboard. You can hit the numpad 0. So if you hit 0, there we go. It's going to get you in that angle. Okay, now to get out of this, if I just rotate my screen around, see, if I rotate it, boom, it exits the camera mode. So how can I position this camera easily to my liking? Oh, and by the way, it looks like there's multiple cameras in this project. So up here in the corner, let's just remove these 001, camera 002, and 003. And we'll just keep 1. So let's select these and hit delete. Alright, so we're just left with 1. So again, numpad 0, that's our angle. So what we can do actually is hit N, and then go here to view, and I can do camera to view. So if I click on this, now whenever I move this around, the camera also moves with my view. So I can just easily position it to my liking. So something like that. All right, I like that. So I'm kind of imagining this like my website. So I'm going to have the logo here. I'm going to have the nav bar. So, and I want this kind of at the bottom of the screen. So there we go. So something like that. Cool. And then I click it again. Make sure you click it again, because when you click outside of it like this, you don't want the camera to move anymore. You want it to be perfectly in the position that you set it to. So now that we have our plane, I also want to have another plane basically here at the top to cover up this gray emptiness, because there's nothing really there. So the way we can do that is, again, same thing. We can do, we can actually hold Shift and D and basically duplicate this. Okay? There we go. And then I can kind of just move it to the back and rotate it. I'm going to press R on the Y and rotate it to 90. So you can press R, Y, and then type in 90 and enter. I'm going to do it again. R, RZ this time, 90 to rotate it that way. Actually, I can just do RZ 45 or minus 45. There we go. So now I can view this angle again. I'm just going to move it down like that. Okay. And you can, again, kind of scroll out here and just move it to the back a little bit. Just play around with it. Okay, back to the camera view. That's what we have. Perfect. Now this doesn't look too nice, does it? So we can switch over here at the top to viewport shading. And that's going to give us a, that's going to show us how the materials actually look like here. And then if we click on this one, the last one here, that's going to show us the rendered view. All right, so how it would look actually rendered out. Now, if it doesn't look like this for you, go here to this range, to this camera, and switch it over to cycles from Eevee. All right, so cycles, so it might be on this by default. Switch it to cycles, and if you have a GPU, you can also switch the device to GPU compute. That's just going to make it much, much faster to load up. So as you can see, if I move it around now, it does a pretty good job at it. Cool. So that's done. Now what we can do is actually start animating this. So as you can see, we have a little panel here. That's pretty cool. So let's say I want to make this animation 150 seconds. So what I can do is just, this is the timeline basically, so it lasts from 0 all the way up to 250. So to just reduce down to 150. And we're going to render this out at 30 frames per second. So if 1 second is 30 frames, that I want to multiply it basically by 5. So 5 times 30 frames per second is 150 frames. So 0 to 150. All right, so move that like that. And perfect. So let's do the first time animation with the camera. So it's really simple. All we need to do is click on the camera here. And what I'm going to do is enable this camera to view again. Now what I want to do is, this is basically my last shot, right? The animation is going to happen, and then at the end, this is the final image that I want to see. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the end to 150. I'm going to hit Y, I should say, not Y, and then I'm going to add a keyframe. So we're going to do location and rotation, okay? Location and rotation. So what that means is, if we move it to somewhere else, and if we rotate the camera around, it's going to animate to it. So now, as you can see, put the keyframe there. So if I go all the way back to 0 here, I can just zoom in, holding Shift and the middle mouse. I can position it to a different angle like that, for example. Just pick anything you really want. There we go. Something like that. And by the way, you can go here to the camera as well, and you can change the focal length of this. So that's here. And I can also add depth of field, which we're going to get into in just a bit. But anyway, so let's say I find a nice position here, like that. And then I can hit I again and do location and rotation. And that's it. So if I hit space now, take a look at that. We have a nice, smooth animation. How cool is that? Maybe we can do a bit more rotation. Something like that. I, location, rotation. Let's see. Alright, that's pretty cool. So I'm going to mess around with this a bit. Experiment. Maybe you can have it twisted around like that. That would be pretty cool, actually. So maybe from this angle. Yeah, it's just really, you can come up with some really cool stuff. Look at that. I guess you'd add another keyframe because that's quite a big rotation. Let's just keep it simple. Let's do that. My voice is cracking so much today. Yeah, that's all right. That's pretty cool. You can also grab these points and right-click, and you can do a keyframe type if you want. So you can do Bezier, Quadric, and all of these different interesting easings. Let's try cubic. There we go. So yeah, I mean, try out some of them and see if you like them. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, all we can do is do the same thing with all these items here. So maybe I can grab the roof. So again, to move it, I can do G and Z to move it up. And then I can rotate it, R, maybe something like that. Okay, so again, I'm going to do keyframe I, location, and rotation. Just like that. Actually, let me go back. I'm going to hit Control-C twice. At the end here, again, this is the finished position, right? Let's actually do that 90 a bit sooner. I'm going to hit I, location and rotation, and then go here at the beginning. And I basically want to move this up. So let me just move it up here at 90, like that, rotate it. And then when I go here, I'm going to hit I, location and rotation. Let's see. Oh, that doesn't do it. Let's see why. So that's good. What we can do is just add it here, to be honest. Just move it up, rotate, and then add the keyframe, location and rotation. I'm just going to grab this point now and just move it here at the beginning. Like that. So let's see. So that's pretty cool. And then I can basically apply it to the rest. So if I want to do the wheels, I'm going to hit G. Let's do GY to move it to the side here, like that. Maybe I can rotate it on the Z again. Maybe not on the Z. Maybe just even like that. And then, actually, at the beginning, always make sure to add location and rotation at the beginning. So let's click on that. Also save your file because sometimes it might crash. So let me hit save. There we go. So add the keyframe first and then do your animation. So I'm going to just, I don't know, just move it out. Like that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to hit I, location, rotation, and then just move this. Whoops. So just click on this one and move it to 0. And there we go. So you can just add stuff like that, which makes it look really cool. All right, so experiment, move things around, grab certain bits, and see what you can come up with. But that's essentially it. So that's the whole animation. So now to export it, we can pop out of this view. I'm going to turn on camera to view. Is we can head over here, make sure we have GPU compute on, and then here on this printer, we can do 1920 by 1080. We can do the frame rate. We can set that to 30. And then here the output, you can select maybe the downloads folder, hit accept, and then file format will pick FFmpeg video. Okay, and that's it. So after you have that selected, you can go render and render animation, and that's gonna boom. How cool is that? Awesome. Let me show you what I went through here. Just literally drag the video in, right? Car MKV here. Added a bit of text, so just a Tesla, a H3, and the video. And I added autoplay and muted to it, and that's all you need to do. And what I also did was just added GSAP for a little animation here. Let me show you the CSS as well. So for the CSS, literally all we need to do is add a position absolute and then make it full screen. So I added width 100, stretch it out, add a z-index 1, and then on the H2 and H3s, I just added a z-index 2 so I can put it on top of the video. If I have a nav, if I have a logo, I do the same thing, just add a z-index, put it over the video. And then the pointer event's none, so it's not clickable, and then no one can touch it. And then in the script, literally just in opacity 0 to opacity 1, we're fading in the text. So in the end, the whole finished product looks just like this. Boom. Awesome. And as you can see, everything is still clickable. We cannot click on the background, so that's really cool. And the file, the whole animation is like a megabyte anyway, so it's not really bad. Okay, I'm gonna close this view. I don't want to actually. Just ignore me for a second. Okay, cool. Let me make this a bit smaller because we're gonna do something with the timeline here very soon. All right, so what else I want to do now is go into camera mode. I basically want to follow this ball all the way down there. So how do we do that? Let's go back to 0 here and select the camera in the layers, and I'm going to hit I and do location. All right, that's going to put a keyframe with the current camera location. Now we can go all the way down here to the end. Let's say, let me just hit space and watch this go. Okay, cool. And once it falls right as it hits here, 93, I want to move this all the way down. So what we can do, I'm going to hit N here, to open up the properties, make sure you're on camera again. And the Z, I'm going to move down all the way, let's say there. I'm happy with that. All right, cool. And then I'm going to hit I again. Actually, what we can also do is zoom in on this if we want. So I can hit I. Actually, let's just do it like that. Let's just do Z. All right, all the way down here, maybe to 90. So let's go down to 90. And then I'm going to hit I and location. All right, so let's take a look. And that's pretty cool. And once it falls down here, let's see at 100, I'm going to hit I again, location. All right, so that shouldn't really do anything. But now from here to 120, I'm going to zoom in, maybe something like that, and move it a bit further down like that. And maybe a bit to that side as well as my final shot. I and hit location again. All right, and there we go. That's our scene. Done. Really cool. Boom. And then I can put the text here, I know, in code. But yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. And then you have a light here, which you can move around and position any way you like. Again, you can do top view and just move it around like that. Maybe here, maybe there. You can Shift D and put another one on it bigger, just for it to look a bit sharper. And that's it for there. And then here for the output, what we want to do is, what was it? Render properties, my apologies. Here at the render section, we want to increase the max samples to something like 512. That's going to give you a pretty good result. And make sure the denoiser is activated as well. You can leave the default on, that's fine. And that should be it. You can also add a bit of contrast to it here at the bottom with color management. So you can switch from filmic to standard. And then you can add maybe something like a look here that's high contrast. And that looks quite cool. All right, and that's it. And then you go up here to render and render animation and just enjoy and watch this render out. Okay, so after you rendered everything out, you should be left with something like this. A bunch of images that are exported like that. And they're going to be named 0001, 0002, blah, blah, blah. Now, what we want to do is rename this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, blah, 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 without the zeros here in front. If you know any good program to do that, let me know. I tried it with Photoshop and Adobe Bridge, and it failed. It goes up to 10, but then it just duplicates it again. Anyway, so I manually went over and did this. I know, crazy. But do that. If you know another better method, then good for you, but I didn't. So anyway, so I did that, and I did it to all the balls, and I was left with this, all right? And this is 161, like that, and perfect. All right, so high quality, all of them nice and rendered out. Furthermore, if you want to optimize these, use, I don't know, what programs are there to kind of bring the file size down, because it's like 900 kilobytes per image. But yeah, if you use, what's the bare one called? Tiny PNG, you can bring these down to like 50 kilobytes and optimize it even further, but it's fine, whatever, it's good. So let's go back to our VS Code here. So to actually get this working, let's make a new folder. Let's go here and go to learning, new 3D ball. Let's call it like that. Again, there's a GitHub repo up for you guys to see. So that's all fine and dandy. All right, I'm going to get the best balls in here. There we go. Cool. So it's all formatted like that. Nice. Next up, we're going to do an index.html. We're going to generate a new document here. And I'm going to import, let's do our style.css. app.js. All right, let's link all of these up here. And down here, we're going to do script with the source of app./app.js. Okay, now we're going to need two plugins for this. One of them is going to be GSAP. So let's do GSAP CDN, and we're going to use this to just animate the individual frames. So GSAP min, copy that over right above here. And then we are going to use scroll trigger. So copy scroll trigger. This is going to be used to actually animate based on scroll. So we're going to put this at the bottom of this and hit save. Amazing. All right, so that's all of our scripts ready to go. So now the actual HTML that we have here is just going to be a canvas. So canvas, I'll give it the class of canvas. All right, and then we're going to have a H2 maybe here with a class of ball text or something that's going to say ballsy design. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so yeah, we're going to use a canvas because it's going to do a much better job at rendering out these images rather than changing the image's source and updating this to the new image every time. That's going to be really slow and really bad. Okay, so let's open this up, click on live server, and that's what we have. Fantastic. Let's head over to here to our style.css, and I'm just going to add some basic ones here. We're going to remove the margin on everything, the padding on everything. We're going to do a box sizing of border box. All right, we're going to grab the body. I'm going to add an, oh, damn, something fell on the ground, no. I'm going to show you this later, actually. Let's just keep it like that. I'm going to grab the canvas and just make sure it's full width and full height. So we can do 100 VW, which is viewport width. All right, so the whole screen, available screen, and the whole available height. Take it all up and suck it. That's a bit too much. I apologize. Yeah, that's it. And then we're going to have our ball text. And I'm just going to say display none for now because I don't want us to see it because we don't care about it for now. So let's get rid of it. Okay, so what are we left with? Nothing, absolutely nothing, which is fine. So we're going to do everything in JavaScript. Pretty cool. So first of all, what we want to do is grab this canvas. So we're going to set it equal to document query selector. And we're going to say dot canvas because that's the class we added. There it is. All right, so we have the canvas. Now what we want to make sure is that our canvas width is going to be the same size as our screen width. And I know we added it in CSS, but we're going to add it here as well. So we're going to say canvas.width is equal to window.inner width. And canvas.height is equal to window.inner height. And that's it. Next up, what we're going to do is get the context. Set that equal to canvas.getContext. And we're going to say 2D here because context can also be 3D if you're working with 3D models. But in this case, we just have images, which is technically 2D. Next up, I'm going to define my frame count. How many frames do I have here? I think I only have 179 because I deleted one by accident, so I'm just going to say 179. But if you have 180, then do 180. All right, next up, I'm going to define a function that's going to tell us which frame we are on. All right, so it's going to be called current frame, and this is just going to be a arrow function like that that's going to take an index, a number. And this current frame thingy is just going to point us to each of these files. All right, so it's going to be backticks here. It's going to be / and the folder name called best ball dash slash $ curly brackets, and I'm going to say index plus 1 dot 2 in here dot. Where is it? Where am I doing this? Let me see. Let me wrap this in parentheses like that. Dot 2 string like that. Okay, and at the end here, I'm going to say dot JPEG or whatever file format you have, in this case JPEG. All right, so this is going to look into best ball folder. And once it looks in the best ball folder, it's going to increment one by one and go through all of these images and add the .jpeg extension as well to it. All right, but we're never looping over this, so let's loop over it. I'm going to create another variable called images, which is just going to be an empty array. And then I'm going to say for let I equal 0, I is smaller than frame count, I plus plus, like that. Okay, so here's our frame count. So we define a I that's 0, and if it's smaller than frame count, which it is because we start off at 0, we're going to increment it one by one. All right, so now what I can do is create a new image here. Say new image, and the image source is going to be current frame. All right, we're going to run this arrow function, I, right, because this I keeps increasing. So this I is this index. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 best ball, 4 JPEG. All right. And then finally, I'm going to say images.push in this new image. All right, so we're basically populating this images array with all of our images. If I console log out images, you're going to see, and if I look in the inspector, then we have an array with all the damn images. Lovely. That's really cool. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Well, I'm going to create a render function for WebGL to render out these images. So I'm going to say function render. And what this is going to take in is context.clear rect, like that. And what this function does is it literally just clears out the canvas for you, deletes everything that's on it, because we want to delete it and then paint something different on it. So it's going to be 0, 0, which represents the position where you want to start. So top left corner there. And then the canvas width and the canvas height. All right. That's how you clear out the entire canvas. And then what we're going to do is say context draw image on the canvas. And we're going to pass in images and the frame we're on. Now, let's make another variable up here maybe somewhere. And I'm just going to say let ball is equal to frame 0, like that. Okay, cool. So now here in the images, I'm going to pass in ball.frame, like that. Because this frame here, this is the actual thing that we're going to animate. All right. And then here we're going to say 0 and 0 for the position as well. Okay, a bit confusing, I know, but it's okay. Let's see if this works. We're going to say images 0 on load. When this loads up, run this render function. So what this render function is going to do is going to clear out the canvas, and it's going to draw images 0, right? Because ball.frame is 0. So images 0, draw it on the screen. And here it is. Yes, so it did it. So since I have this let ball here with the frame 0, I can animate it. So what we can do is let's go up. Let's do it here. We're going to say gsap 2. I'm going to grab this ball that I just made here, and I can just increase the number of this on scroll. So I can say curly brackets, and I can say frame. I can actually grab like the frame value here, which is 0. And I can say frame count -1. All right, so 190 179 minus 178, because arrays are going to start counting from 0. So it's going to be 1 less. All right. So that's it. And then snap, we're going to say frame here. And ease is going to be none. So what this is going to do is it's going to snap to each individual number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because you can do it like 1.5, 1.8, 1.9, right? So the actual way it increments, we want to make sure it's always like 1, 2, 3, like whole integers. So we're going to snap it to frame. And then here we're going to define scroll trigger like that. And we are going to define scrub and set that to true, which basically says, make sure to animate these frame counts based on scroll. And then pin is going to literally hold this image here until the animation finishes. So what I mean by that is if I have something down here, something different, hey, let's do H2, hello. I'm going to just multiply this across. See, I can scroll. But what the pinning does is it keeps it here until the animation finishes. So if I do pin and I want to pin the canvas, check this out. See, I'm scrolling and it stays on this frame. Yeah, so that's what it does. And how much I want this to last. I'm going to put like 500 seconds. So 500, basically 5 times the size of the screen. All right, so I can scroll quite a bit to keep running this animation. And as you can see, after that duration finishes, it's going to let me scroll all the way down here. If you want to see what's going on, you can also enable markers and set that to true. And then you can actually visually see where it starts. So start. And then when I reach the end here, it's going to unpin it. Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. So that's all the logic. And then what I want to do is on update here is run this render function. And that's going to be everything. So if I start scrolling now, take a look at that. Boom, done. How cool is that? Really nice, really simple. Now, one more thing I want to do is get rid of this scroll bar here on the right side. It's quite annoying. So we can go here and just grab the body and say overflow X hidden. I don't want the Y because that's going to disable the scroll bar, but there we go. That's pretty nice. So that's done. What else do we want to do? Let's say we want to animate that ball, the text here. So let's get rid of that text. And I'm just going to add a little bit of styling here. Position fixed, and I'm going to position it like that. I just like the way that looks. So if we take a look, it's right there. So when it goes down, maybe I actually don't like the position of that. Maybe it should be more up here. So let's do bottom 60. Does that look better? Yeah, something like that. That's pretty good. Okay, cool. So now that I have that on there, what I can do is go back to app.js here, and I can do another GSAP. So GSAP from 2 this time I'm going to do. I want to grab the ball text, and I want it from opacity of 0 to opacity of 1. And that's it. Let's hit save. I'm going to add another com actually here. I'm going to say scroll trigger and just open up a new object here. Scrub is going to be true. And the start position, let's say I want it like 50% down the animation, and the end is going to be like 60%. So it's just a small little window it has. So let me go down, 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 and like 50% through this animation, it's going to start appearing. Cool. And then it fades out. And see, that's what scrub does, is look at that. It actually interpolates the values of the scroll and it fades it in. Whereas if I don't have scrub, as soon as it hits the 50% mark, it's just going to fully fade in. See? Whereas with scrub, it's based on scroll. Okay, cool. Now what I can do is when this animation completes, so let's say on complete, when this is done, then maybe GSAP to ball text, opacity to 0. All right, just get rid of it. So when we're down here and we're scrolling further down, so boop, 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 and then we go down to next pages, which you cannot see now because we cannot really scroll that much down. So I'm just going to copy over this little div that I made down here. It's just the details with a H1. And I just added some height to this like that if you want to copy this over. All right, just the height, display flex, and centered it. So now I can scroll down and there it is. Now it doesn't fade out. It should fade out when the animation is complete. So this is kind of the problem, right? You don't want to have this kind of just sticking there. I mean, you could if you want to, but it's not something I prefer. Damn it, go back to the code. So something's wrong here. This onComplete I don't think is running at all. So let's take a look, console, and tip. And it looks like the opacity is still 1. So let's do console log here and see what's going on. Console log done. Let's see if this runs. Yeah, it runs. Okay, so then something else is wrong. Don't worry about the scaling of this. We'll fix it. Okay. Let's see what the problem is, guys. GSAP 2, ball text, opacity 0. That looks good to me. Okay, I see it fading out a bit sooner. So let me put some markers on it so I can tell what's going on. Markers true. Okay, there we go. So it starts, start here. Okay, fades in. And when it hits the end, it just doesn't fade out. That is really weird. Okay, what am I messing up here? From to opacity 0 to opacity 1. Scrub, true, start 50 and 60. Let me change this to 1. Is that going to do anything to it? No, technically it shouldn't. I don't get it. I don't see it. Incomplete. Is that spelled correctly? Is that it? Damn it. That was it. It wasn't spelled correctly. Okay, cool. Very cool. Okay, I can remove the markers now. Hit save. Super cool. All right, so everything's looking quite good, isn't it? Now, check this out. Let's see. If I remove the canvas width and canvas height, see, you're going to get this problem. So that's not good. So make sure you add it back here. Now, what if we resize? Well, that doesn't look too good, does it? Yeah, that's not too good. So what we need to do is go here to our style.css. And what I want to do is on the canvas, add an object fit of cover. All right. And that's going to get rid of all that stretching issue, as you can see. So now it looks pretty good, no matter what size this is. All right, cool. Now I saw problems with this. See, when I refresh it, it goes like that, which is not correct anymore. So it's quite a bit strange to get this resizing properly working. But I found a solution, which is go into app.js. And here in our render function, what we can do is always make sure that our canvas has the same size as the image, and then it kind of just, everything works fine. So what we can say is context.canvas.width is always the same size as the image's width, and context.canvas.height is always the same size as the image's height. And that seems to fix like all the weird issues with the sizing. When I resize, refresh, it always is consistent, which is perfect, which is what we want even on smaller displays.